My name is Sam Alexander. I'm a persistent pain patient. I'm also a former Presbyterian pastor. I'm working now as a pain coach, though, trying to take the experience that I've had over the years standing with people as they live in crisis, trying to take the education that I've gotten as I've dealt with my own pain over the years, and find ways to encourage and stand with people as we walk through the terrain of a life where pain has woven its way into so much of who we are and what we do. One of the things that I've discovered, of course, and it's probably obvious, is that if you haven't experienced persistent pain, the kind that weaves into your life, then you really aren't going to get it. But if you have experienced that, see if this sounds kind of familiar. You're at some sort of a gathering, maybe a neighborhood barbecue, something like that, and you twist your body wrong and you wince in pain, and some very well-meaning soul asks you how you're doing. And for whatever reason, you choose that moment to open up just a little window on the epic struggle that you've had with pain over the years. Now, the trouble is, the response you usually get, because people are very uncomfortable with pain, they want to come up with a solution. You get something like this. My sister-in-law has a very close friend, and I was talking to her just the other day, and she used to have a lot of back pain. And what she did was a lot of exercises to strengthen her core, and the pain went away. You should try that. Well, of course I should try that. In fact, I do that, along with the 50 bazillion other things that I do to deal with pain over the years. But there's something very discouraging about that moment. Moments like it, because over the years, time after time, there's this false hope that comes at us in that moment. There's this assumption that there's some kind of magic bullet out there that if we can just get a hold of it, then snap, we're going to be able to break free of that pain. It's discouraging, and it keeps us, I think, from the rock solid hope, though perhaps more difficult to achieve, but the rock solid hope that persistent pain patients actually have. But that hope tends to be kind of elusive. And so we get up every day and we try and deal with our pain, manage it. Some days are better than others. Some weeks and months are better than others. We try different kinds of treatments. We work with doctors, and for some of us, we find that surgery is a responsible option. For others, it's just not. And then there are steroid injections, and they can be very helpful for some people, but sometimes not. Then, of course, there are opiate medications. But you don't want to mention those to the person at the party, because if you do, you're going to be right away defending yourself because they're thinking you're one of those people that the New York Times says is using them irresponsibly. So you'll be trying to explain that you're using them correctly for the rest of the night, and in the final analysis, maybe even feel like you're trying to convince yourself. It's kind of like that. It's icky. The reality is, though, that persistent pain, having woven its way into our lives, is a complex problem that requires a multifaceted solution. I mean, a long-term engagement with pain isolates us from a tremendous amount of things. Isolates us often from our vocational life. And so part of dealing with persistent pain, part of what we walk with, is dealing with how we figure out what to do to earn a living. The stress of that bringing more and more pain. Then there's a tremendous impact that it has on our friendships as it isolates us from the people that are around us, perhaps farther away, but also from our closest partners, from our family. It can happen that way because it's very, very difficult for somebody to live with a partner who's suffering persistent pain. It's discouraging for them too. But it also isolates us from the very best of ourselves. It gets under our skin and moves us into a cycle of hopelessness. What we really need is somebody who's going to be able to walk with us, who's going to be able to encourage us and strengthen us, who knows the terrain some, so can help us find a direction to move steadily forward towards the moment when we do have a grasp on that pain, when we are able to tease it out and grasp back a great deal more of our life without pain. That's what we need. Now, pain, as it turns out, is actually a disease of the brain. And that's an important thing to recognize. You know, there are 9 areas in the brain that process pain, at least in the conscious brain. And in the healthy brain, about 5 to 7% of each of those areas is dedicated to processing pain. But once you've dealt with pain for a long time, once you've had persistent pain, and you've engaged it for a very long time, that number goes up to 25 or even 30% of those areas are hardwired to process pain. What we've done is oversensitized our brains to the pain. And I've worked with my doctor, Dr. Michael Moskowitz. He and his partner, Dr. Marla Golden, have done a tremendous amount of work on neuroplastic processes to reverse the process that I just described. Because we can train our brain to move away from pain, to reduce it so we're not oversensitized to pain. But this isn't a magic bullet either. It's a complex issue because all of the things that I talked about before, the vocational isolation, the relationship issues, the issues about our soul or spirit being pulled down with hopelessness, all of those things have a tremendous impact on our pain brain. Now, the foundation of the work that I do is neuroplastic. It's an effort to counter-stimulate each one of those 9 areas of the brain so that we're able to get to a place where we've reduced the sensitivity of our brains and we don't feel the pain that we once felt. It's the foundation, but it's not the whole picture, because that long-term engagement with pain requires us to deal with our relationships, to deal with our vocation, to deal with the inner life and struggle that we have. And this is why I say that all pain calls us towards transformation. I mean, when you think about it, pain has woven its way so thoroughly into our lives that when we get to the point where we can remove it from our lives, we are going to be a transformed person. We're going to be different. Pain calls for transformation. It's a long journey. It's difficult, and yet it is very clear that the tools and the mechanisms are there for us to be able to deal with persistent pain. What I'm hoping I can do is stand with people, encourage people. I know the terrain. I know how to walk the walk and try and get to that place where we're unweaving all of that pain from our lives so that it doesn't have the kind of impact that it's had over these years. Now, my guess is that's pretty hard to imagine. I know it was hard for me to imagine when I first started out trying to figure out how neuroplastic processes were going to work or how I was going to break into some kind of hope. And so probably what will need to happen is I'll have to hold the hope for you. But it's real. I know it's there. I've had some success. But I wonder if you can imagine being with somebody who does know the terrain, who knows what you're going through, who would never judge you for what it is that you're struggling with, who's interested only in encouraging you along the way. My friends tell me that's what I do better than anything else, is encourage people. And not the kind of attaboy, pat you on the back encouragement, but the kind of encouragement that comes because I can see what's real and valuable in you. It's that that's going to draw us into a life of greater hope. As step by step, we steadily walk towards the moment when we are able to break free of our pain. I want to do that with you. I'm hoping if you think there are some possibilities for us to work together, that you'll get in touch. I mean, the first call that I have is always free, so we can just try to talk about it, try and figure out whether it makes sense for us to work together. And I never pressure. At the end of any of those calls, I always say, well, why don't you give it a couple of days, think about it, and then get back to me. Don't ask for an immediate answer. But I'm hoping you will call because I believe I can help. And that's what I want to do. Sure, I want to earn a living, but I've chosen to do it this way because I think that people with persistent pain need the help, need the encouragement. I know I have. Either way, whether you work with me or whether you don't, I really do wish you all the best. This is an epic struggle. And it goes through phases, I've found over the years. Remember me. There may be another time when I can help as well. Thank you.